Today we're talking all about the power of self-therapy and how you can help yourself completely change your life. Welcome back. My name's Nina and I'm a life coach that specializes in personal development. Here at this channel we talk about everything having to do with our emotional well-being, understanding our own psychology, and leading our best life possible. So if you aren't already a subscriber, please take a moment and become one. We definitely want you to stay connected. So for years, I really suffered from anxiety and self-doubt. I had lots of limiting beliefs and I really suffered from catastrophic thinking. My life looked great on paper, but inside I was really struggling and suffering. I would really never give myself credit for any of my accomplishments, and I always really doubted my own strengths and abilities. I was completely blocking my own happiness. Now, this went on for years until I finally realized that I did not want to live this way, that I deserved to live a happy life. And I really recognized that so much of my suffering just came from my own mind. It was only things that I was thinking about. It was not even realistic situations. So I did a ton of research and eventually came to find cognitive behavioral therapy. Now, this is something that is often done with a mental health practitioner, so that is something that is definitely an option for you, but it's also something that you can effectively use on yourself, which is what I did. And they have found through studies that this type of self-therapy is actually highly effective, and it certainly was for me. This is something that completely and entirely changed my life forever, and something that I am so excited to share with you today so that you can immediately start using this technique in your own life and getting relief and benefits from doing so right away. Now, cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, is really based on the idea that our thoughts and our feelings and our behavior all interact together. So it is how we think that ends up influencing how we feel and how we behave. So of course, negative or unrealistic thoughts can end up causing a lot of anxiety and stress for us. The problem is that we are not used to questioning our thoughts. Usually when a thought comes into our mind, we accept it to be true whether it is or not. So this technique really aims to transform thoughts or behaviors that ultimately are blocking positive outcomes. So when we are thinking negatively, what happens is that our perceptions or our interpretations of events really become distorted, and that is where the problems really start. Now, there are really uncountable ways that our perceptions could be distorted, but it could be as simple as jumping to conclusions, or it could be that we are creating stories in our mind or catastrophizing, or that we always see a situation as being good or bad. Now, most of us really suffer from two different types of thought patterns. Now, the first is automatic thoughts. Now, the automatic thoughts are the ones that just pop into your head right away when a situation or event happens. And it could be a pattern of thinking. So it could be that we always assume the worst case scenario, or we are just automatically thinking and exaggerating the negative aspects of something and really ignoring the positive aspects of something. But it is those initial thoughts that come into our head right away that are at first unquestioned. And the second is irrational beliefs. Now, irrational beliefs are the mental stories that we tell ourselves that really keep us from growing as a person or from seeing things in a realistic light. We all have mental scripts in our head about how we think life should be, or what should or shouldn't happen during the course of our lifetime. Irrational beliefs also encompasses all our unfounded attitudes or beliefs or opinions, anything that we have held on to our life because either we've come up with it ourselves or we've been actually taught, that have gone unchecked. So here's where CBT really comes into play. We can look at these automatic thoughts and we can learn to look at these irrational beliefs, and we can actually question them, and evaluate them. So the technique that can be used is called ABC. Now this technique really comes from rational emotive behavior therapy. So we can use these letters to help us remember the steps in really making ourselves feel better. Now the A stands for activating event. So here we're just looking at the actual event or situation that is causing our feelings. So we want to look at the trigger that is making us have all these thoughts and feelings to begin with. The B stands for beliefs. So whatever happened, we have some beliefs that we have about it. So we talked about our automatic thoughts and our irrational beliefs. So we want to go ahead and look at what those beliefs actually are. Now the C stands for consequence. So here we're just really looking at the consequence of having that belief. So we're going to determine what negative emotions or what dysfunctional behaviors came about because of those beliefs. So it's a matter of self-analysis. So that is the A, B, and C. So let me go ahead and give you an example of how this ABC model might work in our own life. So let's say we got fired from a job. So the A, or activating event, is the loss of the job. Now the B, or beliefs, because of this could be that we think that we will never find another job, and that we are a bad person, and that we are hopeless. Now the C, the consequence of these beliefs or feelings, is that we end up feeling depressed. So that is one way that we can look at how to use the ABC model. Now that is really discerning what the beliefs actually are and how the beliefs are making us feel. So let's go ahead and look at the D and E, which is actually how we're going to find resolution to all this. Now the D is for dispute, and this is critical. We are going to actually dispute our beliefs in the first place. So we're going to go ahead and look at how we were thinking and feeling and decide if it is actually based in logic and reason. So going back to the example of us losing our job and our belief about that being that we are never going to find another job and that we are worthless, let's look at that belief. Is that actually true? Is that something that is provable? Is that the only possible outcome that could come out of this situation? Is this something that we believe is actually a rational statement? So you're going to find if the statement or the thought or feeling actually is irrational, that you will definitely be able to argue against it. And it's important that you allow yourself to do so. A lot of times we are attached to the emotion, so we really want to defend that emotion, but we have to look at it much more objectively. If we can learn to do this, we're going to find out that so many of our automatic thoughts and our beliefs are completely not based in reality at all. They are based in fear. We are looking at them from a very distorted lens, and that lens usually is fear. So we want to look at it from a much more realistic angle, even if we're not willing to change our beliefs at this moment. We want to just look at the belief and notice when it is not actually based in reality. And the E is for affective new beliefs. So what happens here is we're going to take these irrational thoughts or these automatic thoughts, and we are going to transform them into new beliefs that are much more in alignment to actual reality and something that will help us have a positive resolution and positive outcome out of this situation. We have to understand that so many of our thought patterns are just completely based out of habit. So we are used to this negative thinking, we are used to worst case scenario thinking, and we are used to believing our negative and terrifying stories that we create around situations. If we continue to allow ourselves to create these negative and unrealistic stories all the time, of course, we are going to always be filled with anxiety, stress, and fear, because our body is going to be reacting to these feelings as if these situations were really as we are imagining them to be, which of course is not the case. But when we are so used to thinking this way, We believe it to be true. We believe our automatic thoughts. Of course, we believe our irrational beliefs because we are so used to seeing the world in this way. But if we can learn to question the belief and then replace the belief with something that is much more healthy and productive for us, we're going to see so many positive changes in our life. There's also 3 other techniques within cognitive behavioral therapy that we can use in combination with our ABC technique. And the first one is keeping a journal of our negative thoughts. So just getting in the habit of really noticing our negative thought patterns and our automatic thoughts and our irrational beliefs is going to be, really helpful in actually changing our behavior. So if you can actually take the time to write it out when you are having these negative thoughts and feelings is going to give you a lot of valuable information. The second thing we can do is to practice mindfulness. Now, mindfulness is something that is a technique coming from Buddhist meditation, but we use a kind of Western secular version of this, where we are just thinking about always being in the here and now. So we are living in the present moment as opposed to focusing on the past or the future, which causes a lot of anxiety. So when we oftentimes focus our attention on the past, we relive usually our most painful memories. We bring up, thoughts and feelings that we wish that we could change. When we think about the future, we are often just terrifying ourselves, thinking about imagined scenarios that we don't really believe that we're going to be able to handle. So if we can instead think about the present moment, is going to be a lot more helpful. And I do have a video on mindfulness, so I will link that down below in case you want more information on it. The third thing that we can do is to give ourselves positive affirmations and use anchor thoughts. So for positive affirmations, we are just simply telling ourselves healthy and constructive things that we need to hear. So for example, if we know that we struggle with self-esteem, we could tell ourselves very positive things such as, I am a confident and capable person, or whatever it is we need to hear. But we're going to actually tell ourselves these things on a daily basis so we can kind of rewire these negative thoughts. The other thing is the anchor thoughts. Now with an anchor thought, all we're doing here is we are going to pre-design a thought pattern that's going to come up for us whenever we experience a particular trigger. So for example, if we know we are scared of driving, we may have a wonderful calming thought that we envision every single time we get into a car. So that is called an anchor thought. And I also have a video about this topic, and I will link that down below as well. When you realize how much of your suffering is due because our thoughts are unchecked, you are going to see how valuable this form of therapy really is. And like I said, the studies show that using this self-therapy technique is very, very effective. And if you feel that you want further help with this, you can certainly contact a mental health professional who would be more than happy to use this technique with you. When you learn to work on this with yourself, you're going to find that you become more confident and a lot less anxious. Now, you may have situations still that you feel some anxiety or some discomfort. This does not alleviate all pain that you will ever feel, but it will certainly help reduce pain because we're going to be learning how to see things through a much more realistic filter instead of all these different cognitive distortions that we have. So I wish you so much luck and love in this process, and my true hope for you is that you learn to really incorporate this process in your thinking all the time, and you will be shocked at the difference that it makes in your life. I see it all the time with my clients, of course, and absolutely in my own life. So I hope you found today's video helpful. If you did, please like it and share it with someone else who may need to hear this information today. Also, again, if you aren't already a subscriber, please take a moment and become one. We definitely want you to stay connected. And I thank you so much for spending time with me today. Have an absolutely amazing day.